Okay, we are now live on YouTube and we are live on Zoom. Thank you very much. We have 45 attendees joining the call.
Excellent. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Margie Gator, a member of the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. I will be the moderator for this San Mateo City Council Candidate Forum. Thank you to the City of San Mateo for sponsoring the forum tonight. First, a couple things. I just want to mention virtual candidate forums have some unique features, but we think we've designed a process for using all the wonderful conferencing apps that will give everybody a good experience and follow the League's long-standing and well-received forum process. There's a host timekeeper and a moderator for this candidate forum. The host tonight is my colleague, Kathy Wheeler. She's responsible for managing the virtual meeting for us. You, the audience, are not visible by default and not audible. And this is so we can focus on the candidates and their responses. The host also has a timing app, which she will run in the background, and then she will give the candidates some warning before their time is up for their opening, closing statements, and when we get into the question period. If you have questions, we urge you to submit them to the email address lwvncsmc.questions@gmail.com. I will say I already have lots of questions that you all submitted earlier today and in the days previous, and I have lots of great questions. So that's very exciting. Thank you very much. No campaign literature or other material, including campaign promoting background, is permitted. And we don't have any of that, so we're all good to go there. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of both men and women whose purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. We appreciate the interest and efforts of groups such as the City of San Mateo in presenting events that increase voters' knowledge about the candidates and issues. The purpose of a candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for all the candidates to be heard at one time and to be questioned by you, the voters. We hope that by bringing the candidates and voters together face to face, the voters will be better informed and will make wise decisions when they vote. We appreciate your interest in coming out to learn more about the candidates. Tonight, you will hear from the candidates for the San Mateo City Council. There are 3 candidates for 2 seats. The term of office is 4 years. The candidates in alphabetical order are Amarantz or Amo Lee, Lisa Diaz-Nash, and Diane Popham. The rules for the forum are as follows. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. Then we'll have a question period, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and all the candidates will have an equal time there. And then we'll have closing statements of 2 minutes for a closing statement. Again, our timer is Kathy, and she will let everybody know when they have a little bit of time left. All questions have come to me, the moderator, and I've sorted them by subject, and we've got a nice variety of topics, so I'll try to hit all the main topics that we got questions on. We rarely have time to ask all the questions, so I may need to rephrase or combine questions at times. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will speak. Each candidate has 3 minutes for an opening statement, and our first one is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Well, thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for organizing this wonderful event. The fact that yesterday was National Voter Registration Day makes it appropriate that we gather here tonight to participate in our democratic process. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Our vote and our civic participation are 2 of the most important things we can do to protect our democracy. So thank you to everyone who took time out to be here tonight. And thanks to the League of Women Voters for being on the front lines for 100 years this year. My name is Lisa Diaz-Nash. I am running for San Mateo City Council because I love San Mateo. I believe my lifetime of business and nonprofit leadership and community service is uniquely suited to this moment. I want to contribute my experience and skills to help guide San Mateo through difficult times and work with each of you to help build a better tomorrow together. I am a hands-on problem solver who wants to create a great quality of life for all San Mateans. I have been successful in my personal and professional life because I'm able to bring diverse groups together to find common ground that leads to common success. That's how I would lead as a council member. I have tried to live my life by always learning from the people around me. My grandfather came to Florida from Spain and Cuba and eventually managed a small cigar processing plant in New York City. After college, I spent 9 years in Asia, studying Mandarin Chinese and working for American Express. When my husband and I returned to the US 30 years ago, we came here to San Mateo to work for Visa. I was a senior executive for large companies such as Schwab, E-Trade, and Yahoo, and led a global clean water and sanitation nonprofit, bringing health, education, and economic opportunity to 2 million people, mostly women and girls. I experienced a near-death freak PG&E electrical explosion in San Francisco 15 years ago that taught me tremendous empathy for people suffering tremendous life challenges and put me on the road of service that brought me to my candidacy today. After our 2 daughters grew up, I dove into community service as the best way to give back to this community that has been so good to all of us. I am currently the president of the San Mateo Library Board, a director of the San Mateo Neighborhood Watch Board, Rotary Haciendas Board for low-income senior housing, the Baywood Homeowners Association, the chair of the San Mateo Measure S Oversight Committee, and a volunteer for Samaritan House. I want to be an independent advocate for our neighborhoods and small businesses. As a council member, I will always listen to you and stay focused on making balanced decisions that celebrate our diversity and open the door for opportunity to all San Mateans. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement is Amo Lee.
Thank you so much to the League for hosting. I'm a proud member, and this year we've been spending a lot of time thinking back 100 years ago when there was literally blood in the streets. Women were hunger striking and being imprisoned to gain the right to vote, and we've come a long way. Today, I am the first Asian woman to ever serve on this council, and voters will make a decision between 3 female city council candidates. So this is a real sign of progress. I wanted to thank all the viewers today. I think that the fact that you tuned in, it means that you really understand how important this decision is. This is probably the hardest time to govern in modern history. And everything in my life has prepared me for this moment. I'm a 2-time nonprofit executive director, a startup founder, and my career has been about building healthy and strong communities. I bring expertise to the council in public policy and also a background in public health. Ironically, I was never aiming for the council. My dad is a teacher. My mom ran a used clothing store, and becoming a politician, it was literally never on the menu. My path to council was really being called to serve. I was tapped and I was asked by neighbors who wanted to see our city leadership reflective of our community demographically and geographically. They wanted to see our city electeds understand the struggles of working families. And I am a working mom. Both my kids are born and raised San Mateans. They attend the public schools. My family has struggled to find childcare. I personally know the risks and the struggles of building a business here. And at my core, I really do understand struggle. I come from struggle. When I was in high school, I worked 32 hours a week and I've struggled to keep a roof over my head. And I am the product of good policy and strong community. And every single day of my life has been about creating opportunities to give back so that everyone has the chance to be lifted as I was. On the council, I bring an approach to leadership as a bridge builder. And I have a strong track record showing my work as a coalition builder and bringing people together from disparate groups, often on different sides, and problem solving together. I really believe that good governance is about empowering people to fully participate in decisions that affect all of our lives. I am known because I am listening to you and I'm learning from you and I'm working alongside you, rolling up my sleeves as a partner to get this work done. And I'm so excited and grateful for the chance to share my story. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next opening statement is Diane Poppin.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for this forum. I'm seeking re-election because these extraordinary times require experience. I'd like to start by speaking about my life and my life experience, and then talk a bit about my public service. My personal story has been the biggest influence on my passion for service. I'm the granddaughter of Greek immigrants, and I'm the daughter of a man who was sent to school without knowing a word of English. I saw my parents go through so much with their firstborn being sick with something no one had ever had. I saw my father fight the health insurance company that tried to cancel our coverage because of my brother's illness. My folks taught us so much about carrying on a legacy of service. I watched my father in the state assembly with such compassion. He was a champion for special education, and he carried legislation to protect firefighters who are at risk of cancer. In memory of my brother, my mother created 2 nonprofits to help kids in need. She was determined that good come from so much tragedy. Today, my sister and I continue to run these nonprofit programs, and we're keenly aware of the needs of those most at risk. My husband and I are leading by example to pass on these same values of service to our teenage daughter who attends our local public high school. So my sense of service was instilled in me from a very young age, and it's been with me all of my life. Professionally, I'm a working mom with my own commercial law practice, where I represent a lot of small businesses, which has placed me at the forefront of what the business community is going through right now. And it really helps me serve with a very comprehensive viewpoint. Prior to serving on the council, I was president of the Baywood Owner Improvement Association. I served on the board of SMUHA, and I was on the site council for our daughter's school. I took the value of listening to neighborhood concerns to the council with me and to the regional boards that I serve on. The City and County Association of Governments, I chaired the Council of Cities, I serve on the Express Lanes Joint Powers Authority and the Flood and Sea Level Rise Resiliency Board. I've served with the guiding principles of empathy, fairness, and humility. My service has been about fighting for a community that is safe, healthy, and resilient. My focus has been on enhancing our sense of community and building consensus on our most important issues, from affordable housing to reducing traffic, to parks, to sewers, to our beloved library. I firmly believe that the city has the greatest impact on our sense of community and our daily lives. My biggest priorities: emergency preparedness. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Firefighters and the Police Officers Association, whom I've worked with over the last 4 years. Creating a community that makes it possible for workforce housing to be built. Infrastructure, replacing our aging streets, sewers, and upgrading our park facilities. Continuing efforts to reduce traffic in the Express Lanes JPA that I serve on as part of this effort, and ensuring that the city remains fiscally sound, while at the same time maintaining the level of services that our residents have come to expect. It's been an honor to be in the trenches on these issues. I'm seeking re-election to continue this important work with the guiding principles of empathy, fairness, and humility, and with a wealth of experience to draw upon. I'm proud to have the endorsement of our Lieutenant Governor, Congresswomen Jackie Spear and Anna Eshoo, Senator Jerry Hill, Assembly Members Kevin Mullen and Mark Berman, and the entire County Board of Supervisors. And you can learn more about me after this at dianepappin.com.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, candidates. It's now time for the candidates to answer your questions. Each candidate will have a minute to answer the question. I will vary the order in which the candidates are called on to speak. The candidate, if there is a question to a specific candidate, I will ask that question first to that candidate, and other candidates will have a chance to respond, of course. With that said, our first question is, what do you see as the #1 issue in San Mateo? And please say more about what ideas you would pursue for it, and most important, and just as importantly, what ideas would you rule out? What is your #1 issue to solve in San Mateo? And say more about what ideas you would pursue towards that goal and what ideas you wouldn't pursue. And first on this is Emma Lee.
I think the #1 goal, the overarching goal, is to create a healthy community. And for me, I define health fiscally healthy and also physically healthy, and then built out from an ecosystem healthy, sustainably healthy. And so those are the sort of the lenses that I view our overarching goal, to create a healthy community and support the necessary ecosystem that, it's all, everything is a puzzle that works together. And so, one of the greatest jobs that we have on the council is to oversee land use policy. And so what that that entails is, how we support our businesses, how we support our housing and address our housing crisis, and create vibrancy. And then there's a lot of direct ways that we've been supporting the economic and physical health of our community through partnership with the county, and supporting testing strategies and in COVID response.
Thank you. All right, next on this question is Diane Poppin.
I hate having to pick just one, but I'm going to do it anyway. And my feeling is it is our fiscal health, to use the similar word, because nothing happens at municipal government unless there's money to fund it. So I come to things with a strong fiscal lens. Sometimes that can be a real damper, quite frankly. But I will tell you this, in serving for 4 years, what I've noticed is there is no absence of good ideas. The real issue is, how do you pay for them? We are coming on a $7 to $8 million structural deficit right now because of COVID, and we have a $250 million unfunded pension obligation. It will require creativity. And I said the other day, I think some of the major unsung heroes in keeping us fiscally strong will be city staff. We are going to have to get into some very hard decision making. We don't want to cut services for our residents. I think San Mateo has a great quality of life, and a large part of that is because our city services are so strong. So we have some real balancing to do, and we will do it.
Thank you. And finally on this question is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Thank you. I think the number one priority is expanding San Mateo's affordable housing options. And many San Mateans agree with me, and that was their number one concern in a community survey earlier this year. I have a three-pronged strategy: preserve, protect, and produce. Preserving, I want to work with small landlords to preserve existing affordable rentals. I want to work with community partners to promote alternative affordable housing programs like granny units or ADUs. In protecting, I want to counter gentrification trends by partnering with organizations like HEART to promote low-cost home loans and HIP housing to match rental rooms with those seeking affordable housing. I also want to explore public-private partnerships that enable affordable housing ownership for teachers and essential workers. And to produce, I want to advocate for an increase in housing development along our transit-oriented development corridor, and insist those projects include plans for pedestrian and bike safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, do you support or oppose measures R and Y, and why? Do you support or oppose measures R and Y, and what are your reasons for this? And first on this is Diane Poppin.
Okay. So Diane Poppin here. I'll just, City Council came out against Measure Y. We felt, at least I came out against it because I felt that it did not give us the greatest opportunity to achieve the goals that we talked about. Lisa just mentioned that we did a survey, and she is correct. Affordable housing and keeping San Mateo's character were the major priorities for our residents. And I really felt that we can address those best through a comprehensive discussion, which I think can happen in the general plan process. I don't think Measure Y allowed for a robust discussion there. With respect to Measure R, I have not made a decision yet, and I have not come out either way for it. It at least allows for some further discussion in the general plan process on some very key study areas that we had already identified. So at a minimum, at least Measure R allows for that. But I'm a general plan kind of gal, and I'd really like to see our discussions happen there.
Thank you. Next on this question is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Thank you. I cannot support either Measure R or Measure Y. I'm concerned that the limits in both measures, particularly with regard to density, would take options for affordable housing off the table at a time when we need every option we can get. We need to examine new ways to create affordable housing, from repurposing commercial real estate if it becomes available as employees work from home, to looking at how to rezone the Bridgepoint area to reflect our needs of tomorrow. I'm also opposed to Measure R because it just contains too many unknowns that I'm not sure about. It could theoretically enable more affordable housing because it eliminates height and density limits along the transit-oriented development corridor and allows developers to pay in lieu fees, but the city therefore would have to create an entirely new in lieu fee program, as the current program covers less than 50% of the actual cost. So these unknowns are too large for me. I believe strategies that are this big need to be developed as part of the general plan, listening to our people, unencumbered by ballot initiatives that could hamper our options.
Thank you. And finally is Amo Lee.
Thank you. So +1 to everything Diane said. The council was unanimous. Many of our concerns about Measure Y were shared about the limitations that's put on getting deeper levels of affordability. For me personally, I strongly oppose it because of the way that it inhibits a protection and preservation strategy. And so those are the primary reasons. In terms of my my position on Measure R, I haven't taken a formal position. It has a lot of pros and cons, and I think that the pros are that it will force growth around the transit corridor, and it mostly aligns with the general plan study area map. And however, it doesn't include some key areas that I believe are important to consider. And I also strongly prefer leaving it up to the general plan process. And so that's my
Thank you.
reasoning.
Since we're talking about housing, I'll ask a follow-up to that. Everyone says they're for more affordable housing, but then they want to protect the way they live, so to speak. What would you do specifically to get more people behind affordable housing if that is your goal? Everyone says they're for more affordable housing, but then that they want to protect how they live, the way they live, or their neighborhoods. What would you do to get people to support more affordable housing if that is your goal? And first on this is Lisa. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. What I was starting to say is that I am a consumer marketer by trade. And I learned long ago that the way you convince people to do things that they may not think are in their interest is by showing them how it is in their interest. So the first thing I would do is mount an aggressive promotional campaign throughout San Mateo to talk about the advantages of accessory dwelling units. They are really a way to expand the density in all the neighborhoods, and then also to allow people to see how it would benefit them. So parents could actually help their kids come back and live in San Mateo. Seniors wouldn't have to stay in a house that's too big for them, but they couldn't afford to leave. People could rent out their spaces if they worked with hip housing, or if they had an ADU, they might invite a teacher to come and live with them. So I think the first thing to do is to get people to see how more affordable housing is in their favor.
Thank you. And next on this question is Amo Lee.
That's a great question. I have a public health background, and so helping people act in their own best interests to keep themselves healthy is something that I do. And oftentimes, when we're talking about decision points and behaviors, it's not automatic that people do see what is beneficial to themselves, and it does require education and engagement. And for me, the starting place is to understand where people are coming from and the concerns that they have, and give them a voice at the table to help solve some of those problems. And, nobody should be left out of the conversation, and nobody's concerns should be ignored. And so I think, the process of dialogue and collective problem solving together will get us to a place where I think that we can find balance and find equity. And I think, for me, fundamentally, the message is that change is constant, and that the status quo is not working, and it is hurting too many of our community members.
Thank you. And finally, Diane Poppin.
Okay, so this is kind of what our survey revealed to us as well, the basis of this question. People want affordable housing, but they want to keep their community the same. And as we've discussed, I think the general plan is the place to have that robust discussion to figure out how you do achieve that balance. We had started with it and we put it on hold once these ballot measures came forward. What we had started to look at was along the transit corridor, perhaps dealing with construction there in a different way than we had in the past. One of the things that we did recently was there was a project that came, the Office Waters Park, which converted older office space into housing with different products to it. It had renting, it had townhomes, it had houses. I'd like to see some more of that, and especially along the transit corridor so we can support the transportation needs that come along with development. So through the general plan, we can reach a balance, and we already started along the transit corridor to look at where we might put more affordable housing.
Thank you. Our next question is, what will you do to support our small businesses as they adjust to the new ways of doing business? What will you do to support our small businesses as they adjust to the new ways of doing businesses? And first on this is Amo Lee.
Well, I'm very proud of the work that our council has done to support our small businesses. We were very quick to act, and we diverted our city staff resources to form a business outreach task force that was multilingual. And that effort helped connect businesses to things like the PPP loan. Our city invested in the San Mateo Strong Fund, which has provided grants to small businesses. We've also enacted a commercial eviction moratorium. We have done incredible work to create a lively and robust outdoor dining program that's created 29,000 square feet of outdoor dining. It's allowed our businesses to get back to business. And I work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business Association. I am the council liaison in that regard. And so I have very deep relationships with our businesses, and we have a really open dialogue for problem solving and looking ahead.
Thank you. And next is Diane Papan.
Councilmember Lee just talked about what we did for the emergency, for the immediate. And we also actually just voted 2 nights ago to spend another $200,000 on barricades to reinforce the parklets. We've gotten great feedback, and it really has been a lifeline for a lot of our small businesses downtown. In the long term, it's going to be white knuckled. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is way trickier in what we can do in the long term. I think the one thing that we can focus on is process. And by that, I mean maintaining an open dialogue with our economic development department and our small businesses to listen to what they need and see how we can assist it, and by God, not be an impediment to the work that they need done. So that's the one thing that I can control. The rest of it is a lot trickier, and we will see where we end up. But we've done a lot, as was just described, for our emergency work, and we're in this together for the long haul.
Thank you. And finally, Lisa Diaz-Nash.
I think in addition to what my 2 other colleagues have said, I would add a focus on finding out ideas from the small businesses as to what they need to start growing again. There has been a lot of effort in protecting them now, but the new COVID environment is going to be it already is much more online. And so many of our small businesses don't know how to do that. So how can we form partnerships with third parties to help them? How can we show which businesses are leading the way? How can we further streamline regulations, further suspend fees, further look at partnerships? We have got such incredible talent in Silicon Valley. And just as Silicon Valley has asked to help government improve, I'm sure there are lots of people that would love to come and help small businesses, because we all live here together. And I have made helping small business part of my campaign and have raised funds for them at every event. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to switch gears to climate. How will you help build a stronger, more resilient community able to withstand the environmental impacts we see from our climate crisis, ranging from wildfires to flooding to food scarcity? How will you help build a stronger, more resilient community able to withstand the environmental impacts we will see from our climate crisis, ranging from wildfires to flooding to food scarcity. And we will start with Diane Poppin.
Used to be Papandreouopoulos, so this is glad it's happened. Anyway, so there's a couple things that come to mind. At first, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the REACH codes that we adopted the other night. And we are requiring that all new construction, we have a carve out for affordable housing, be electric. So that's a big deal because, as we know, the gas emissions from your gas stove are really, really toxic. The other thing that I would point out is my work on the flood and sea level rise resiliency district. We have a lot of assets along 101 and the 101 freeway itself. And with sea level rise, we really need to be protected. And so this district was created because we're going to need to be very competitive to raise a lot of money to protect the assets that we have along the water on both sides. So it's interesting work. I love being on it. I was a part of the formation of it, and I'm one of the first people on the board.
Thank you. And next is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Well, I think the most important thing always is education. And once again, helping people understand the impact on their lives. And so I would continue all the current efforts, but I would expand them so that neighbors can educate neighbors. I'm currently on the Neighborhood Watch Board, and I find that neighbors telling other neighbors about how to reduce crime is far more effective than any public service announcement. So I would really get a program out to help people go and help each other figure out how to minimize their own wildfire risk, helping all the communities or the houses out by the bay really understand, as Council Member Pappen said, the impact of sea level rise and what can be done for them to protect themselves. And then thirdly, I would look to Sustainable San Mateo County, which is an amazing nonprofit that has a database of ideas for sustainability. We should be borrowing, stealing, and implementing every one we can, and not reinventing the wheel ourselves.
Thank you. And finally, Emma Lee.
Well, many of those ideas on the database are from San Mateo because San Mateo has been an incredible leader in this area. Councilmember Pappen, she spoke to many of the things that we are actively doing, including the REACH codes. We are making a $1 billion investment in our clean water program that will help our surrounding ecology and the wastewater that's treated and goes out to the bay. We are building levees to get 1,700 families and households out of the flood zone. And I think so we have an incredible climate action plan that we are executing against, including some of the rapid implementation of our bicycle master plan. Speaking of transit, I serve on the local policymaker group for Caltrain. I am actively supporting Measure RR, which will create a dedicated source of funding for Caltrain. We know that without public transit, 70% of our commuters will continue driving alone.
You can finish your sentence. It's okay.
Okay,
good. Okay, on a slightly related question, the questioner is concerned about the carbon footprint of the transportation system. How will you use your position on the council to increase access to safe alternatives to driving for all San Mateo communities? The constituent is concerned about the carbon footprint of our transportation system. How will you use your position on the council to increase access to safe alternatives to driving for all San Mateo communities? And first on this is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Thank you. I appreciate this question because I think it is an unfinished piece of business that much of San Mateo needs to jump on. We look at a community like Bay Meadows, which was designed to be transit-oriented development friendly, to have people get their cars, put them in the stalls and not bring them out. But people are still bringing their cars out because they're afraid to let their kids cross the street, or they're afraid to ride their bicycles. So I really think we have to have, whenever we develop new housing, we have to have an integrated infrastructure plan that says, what are the pedestrian and bike safety initiatives and how are we going to fund them? Yes, absolutely, Caltrain is great north and south, and I support Measure RR too, but we also need to think about east-west and last mile shuttles that will get people from the grocery store home, and also ways of really increasing local access to retail and restaurants so people don't have to get in their cars and go quite so far. So it's an integrated approach.
Thank you. Next is Amo Lee.
So this is a great segue. Yes, so 70% of people commuting are still driving alone in their cars, and that has not significantly changed, and that's a real struggle. Caltrain has a new vision for their business model, which really will shift the service model to more regular service, more frequent service, and more affordable service. So it won't just be serving our commuters 9 to 5, but really our essential workers that work off peak. If Measure RR will pass, which I hope it will, then it can also include a rate subsidy that will be means tested, that will potentially subsidize some of the fares for low-income families, and it also will include some of those last mile investments and the connectivity that Lisa was speaking to. So
Thank you.
that's
Sorry.
really important.
Thank you. And finally, Diane Papa.
Okay, so I concur with both of the previous comments. They were very meaty and there was a lot there. I'm going to add to it just a little bit. So the work that I've been doing on the Joint Powers Authority for the express lanes, a big part of it was to negotiate this $100 million loan between the San Mateo County Transportation Authority and the Joint Powers Authority that's running the express lanes. And I fought very, very hard. I was on this finance subcommittee to negotiate that loan agreement. And one of the things I fought very hard for was to make sure that these were not just Lexus lanes, but that there was money reserved for equity. This is one of the few transportation projects that's going to make money. So what we hope to do with some of that equity money, we're doing an equity study now, but I think some of it will go towards enhancing our public transportation to make it more reasonable and more affordable for people to get out of their cars, and to make it for those less fortunate to be able to take public transportation with greater ease and less cost. So I just wanted to add to what had already been discussed, because there's more out there.
Thank you. Changing topics here. On Monday, the City Council approved its application to the AARP/WHO for certification as an age-friendly city. The constituent's very pleased, says congratulations. Please tell us what you believe are the most important needs of seniors in our city today and what you plan personally to do to address them if elected. What are the most important needs of seniors in the city today and what do you plan personally to do to address them if elected? And first on this is Amo Lee.
Well, I'm so glad that this question was asked, because the task force that was created for the Age Friendly Cities Initiative, and I'm the liaison to the commission, the senior commission, that I've been following this project very carefully and very closely. And the initiatives that were identified through that task force really spoke to two areas. One was pedestrian safety, and the other was having an enhanced and more coordinated service communication model. So I think there are many services out there, but they're disjointed. It's hard to find them. And so there are these barriers to people actually accessing services for lack of knowledge and lack of coordination. And so creating an umbrella system to capture that and help bring that information directly to people is really needed. The other area I would speak to is housing, senior housing. We saw in our community survey that most seniors do not see themselves retiring here for cost of living challenges, and senior housing is a very serious priority.
Thank you. And next is Diane Papan.
So walkable cities, obviously making our roads much more pedestrian friendly would be one of the things that I think will serve our seniors well. The other part is independence. I think independence is a big part of it. And we have, the city has even subsidized, $5 cab fares for anywhere within the city. And we can enhance, perhaps maybe create a shuttle service or something along those lines so that seniors remain independent and able to get in and about the city to do the things that they need to do. Nobody should be holed up in their home because they can't get out of it for whatever reason, to travel to where they need to travel. We're a big city. We have a lot of services, but sometimes it's just not possible to walk there. So for me, I think independence through transportation assets would be a real good way to address what our seniors' concerns are.
Thank you. And finally, Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Thank you. There has been a particular urgent need that was created by COVID. When I first started my campaign, my volunteers made calls and we spoke to a lot of seniors just to ask, how are you? What can you do? What do you need? And while we were able to arrange doctor's visits and grocery delivery, the real need was human connection. So we need to find ways to continue to make that happen. I support what Councilmember Pappen and Councilmember Lee have said, and I would add that we need to tap into the experience and the energy and the skills of seniors and contribute it back to our community. We need more elder play, not just child's play. We need to connect our young people who are our future and our elders who are our wisdom keepers, and find ways to make that happen, not only to help our seniors, but even more importantly, to help our community and help our future. So I see it as an incredibly energetic effort and just one that could be so exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, explain your experience in solving complex problems and how you've brought people together to solve that problem. Explain and your experience in having to solve complex problems and how you brought people together to solve it. And first is Diane Pappen.
So the one that comes to mind for me happened on the city council, and it was when we went to raise the minimum wage. And there was such a tension between our small businesses and our wage earners. And we really wanted to get the minimum wage raised to $15 an hour as soon as possible. So we originally grappled with, well, maybe we should, I wanted to go after the Targets of the world. That's where my focus was. So I thought, well, maybe we should make the law based upon how many employees you have. And then that got to be sort of complicated. How do you keep track? A number of employees is a very fluid thing. So we worked really hard. We massaged the ordinance, and what we came up with was a phase in so that our small businesses could absorb it, the increase in a way that they could live with. But it was a real dealing with labor and then dealing with small businesses and going back and forth. And we really massaged it and we found that sweet spot. We were the first in the county to do it. It was just a tremendous victory, I think. So, and I enjoyed the work.
Thank you. Thank you. And next is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Well, as I have mentioned before, my personal and professional success is really based on my ability to bring diverse groups of people together to find common ground and common success. I build people up, I don't burn down the barn. And I have done this internationally, working with tribal elders, government officials, and village mothers in Uganda to agree on a new model to improve health and sanitation. And I've done it right up the corner from where I live with our neighbors who were trying to discuss how to develop a traffic action plan that slowed down the cars, increased pedestrian safety, but didn't impinge upon drivers too much. So I bring people together, first talking to them and finding out their issues, and then seeing if I can facilitate how do we find even the smallest bit of common ground. And then from that, celebrating success and moving outwards. So I think it's really a topic where you have to continue to be patient, ask lots of questions, and let the topic go in different ways, but you'll get to success.
Thank you. And finally, Anna Lee.
So another good question. So I would say, one of the most recent examples was the crafting of the Black Lives Matter resolution, which was adopted this year, that I helped co-author in partnership with our Black community leaders and also our Police Officers Association. And it was signed on by our police chief, the chair of the Police Activities League, and many of our faith leaders. And it's, as far as I know, the only Black Lives Matter resolution that is a statement in coalition against police brutality and against racism. That was done in partnership with Black community members, the council, and our Police Officers Association. So that really laid the groundwork for some very important reforms and improvements that our city has embraced, including piloting a mental health clinician coming on board and embedding a clinician into our police department, and enhanced training for Alzheimer's, and the 8 Can't Wait reforms.
Thank you. Next is, what are your plans for the best, what are your thoughts on the best way to deploy the police, and any thoughts on needed reforms? What are your thoughts on policing, and do they need reforms or not? First on this is Lisa Diaz-Nash.
So everyone always can improve. That's baseline. But policing is a critical function of city government with the goal of protecting and supporting everyone who lives and works and visits our city. We need to support our police and strengthen our community policing model, but the operative word has to be all. All people in San Mateo have to feel safe and believe their perspective and needs are being met. So we need to have an ongoing, thorough evaluation, which is already starting to happen, with the police, with the community, as to how do we refine what's going on and how do we improve it. I think there's obviously a need to enhance our mental health services. The police officers will tell you, mental health professionals will tell you, there's not enough resource. But I think it needs to be done in conjunction with the police, and then to build from that to see what might get independently funded. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Amo Lee.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that that I think we have very strong leadership in our department, our police department, and a lot of openness to working with the community and listening to the community. We've held multiple town halls and listening sessions. We are being very proactive to be as transparent and communicative and open as possible to make these improvements. And this is the time. And it's really to the credit of our police department and our leadership that this conversation has gotten as far as it has. And so, you know, I reject the demonization of the police. I see our police as public servants, and I believe that every single person needs to be judged on their track record of service. And so I'm very proud to say that I have the endorsement of the Police Officers Association. And for me, the question is always, what is the correct service model to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our community and keeping everybody safe?
Thank you. And finally, Diane Poppin.
Yeah, so we have had many town halls, or several, and we've also had 2 city council study sessions. One was dedicated just to the police budget, and the other was dedicated to police procedures, including hiring procedures, training procedures, disciplinary procedures, and also what is just the general makeup of the police department. We have tried to be a bit more diverse. We are fairly diverse, but I think that's an area where we could improve. We've done a lot of listening. We're going to continue to listen. We do a lot of community policing, and I'm most proud of that. And I'm glad that has come to the forefront. We want you to see policemen in your neighborhood before something goes wrong. We want you to see the Powell community doing their work before something has gone wrong. The other thing that I would say is I'd like to see the police department focus on getting some grant money for further training, whether it's de-escalation, whether it's mindfulness, so that we can relax and calm down after the job. Those sorts of things I would really like to see them do, and they can do it by getting grant money.
Thank you. This will be our penultimate question. As you look around at Burlingame, Belmont, San Carlos, and even Redwood City, you see major municipal and business improvement district investment in downtowns, in city beautification, in parks, in pools, and rec facilities. San Mateo feels like it's stuck. An unimproved downtown, mediocre pools, old rec centers, little investment in streets, sidewalks, etc. Are we lacking a sufficient tax base, collective will, or a point of view on what we should do? What have you done on council, or what will you do to ensure San Mateo's infrastructure needs meet our needs in the cities? What will you do on council to ensure San Mateo's infrastructure meets our needs and our city is considered a best place to live on the peninsula in the years ahead? what have you done on council to ensure San Mateo's infrastructure meet our needs and our city is considered a best place to live on the peninsula in the years ahead? And first is Emma Lee.
So the point is well taken, and yes, you're right. We need to do more. The constraints are mainly funding, and and that's also something that that we're trying to address. In addition to managing our own our own structural deficit of $7.8 million and the unfunded pension liability. So so there are very serious financial constraints to doing everything and doing it well. But we are making our way there. I served on the Parks and Rec Commission. Parks and Rec is very close to my heart. And one of the things that I've been talking with on the council and with community members about is the need to really move forward with our facilities master plan for Parks and Rec, and commit long-term dollars and investments for those upgrades that will come back to the community and be real quality of life investment.
Thank you. And next is Diane Papan.
So a couple things. I want to just say one thing about Burlingame, and in a PBID district, which is an improvement district. Burlingame only has a few number of owners in its downtown. I think San Mateo in its downtown has something like 300. So the way a PBID is constructed is that you need all of those owners to buy in to the PBID. We have been working on it. It's gone on a little bit of a hiatus because of COVID, but we are continuing to work on it just for those downtown improvements. Now, with respect to the parks, because I think that's another one that is so immediate to people. We have been working on a facilities master plan. There is no question of that. We've got 5 rec centers. That's big, and that's a lot to deal with, and most of them are almost 60 years old. But I think we're going to have to look at some private money. I always say we're living in the promised land, and we do a lot to house the people that are working for these big companies making a lot of money. So we need some private money, and we will most likely, in order to do the rec improvements that we want, probably have to put out a bond, but this is a tough time to do that.
Thank you. And finally, Lisa Diaz-Nash.
Thank you. I think there are short-term, medium-term, and long-term things that we have to do. Just right now, if we had an enhanced cleaning up the sidewalks campaign, it would already make things look better and feel better. We've started to do it. We need to do more. Number 2, we need to really understand that we have multiple downtowns, whereas San Carlos or Burlingame has a smaller second one, but we have multiple downtowns, and we need to work with business owners in each one of those downtowns to get their ideas for how we can promote and get people there. Number 3, we need to look at, once again, public-private partnerships, not necessarily just to get funding, but to work with larger companies to say, how can we build up a partnership? What do we want San Mateo to be? Do we want it to be the healthcare center of the peninsula? Do we want it to be the restaurant center of the peninsula? We need to have a purpose, and then we can bring everyone around it from a public-private partnership perspective and a residential perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that this is the last question because I have so many great questions. We got so many early on. We got plenty as we were going through the event, and audience, I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them and thank you for all your great questions. But the last one I'm going to ask is, what unique talents and qualifications do you bring to the office? Or in other words, what is your superpower? And we're going to start with Diane Papan.
Oh man, I love this question. So what's my secret sauce? Yeah, I hate to be corny, but I do think I'm a consensus builder. And that's what I love about this job, is building consensus, finding that sweet spot where you can get people to come together and move the needle. It's really important to me. And I think in order to do it, Lisa touched on this, is you gotta be a good listener. We spend a lot of time listening. And it's always interesting to me, the people that come to the city council meeting, they're like, you guys sat there for like 3 hours and just listened. That's part of the job. And if you can't listen, you're not gonna be terribly effective. So I think listening, and then from that building consensus, Yeah, that's my secret power. It's not particularly original, but I think it's one of the ones I do very well. So there, in all modesty.
Thank
Thanks for the
you.
question.
Thank you. And next is Lisa Diaz-Nash. What's your superpower?
My superpower is being able to find what's amazing in other people and bringing it out so that they can get things done. I have done that my entire professional life, managing teams through great times and bad times. I've done it here in community service. It's really understanding who your customer is, whether it is a resident, a business owner, someone who's just a neighbor down the street from you, and really making them feel excited about what's happening and wanting to get engaged. I also think I have a unique combination of business and nonprofit and community service experience that I can bring that is uniquely suited to this moment, that I can add a lot of value. And I also have an incredible family that keeps me honest and keeps me growing, and amazing friendships that keep renewing me. And I think that is so important, to be able to continue to contribute and be a new thinker.
Thank you. And finally, Ammo, what is your superpower?
Well, at my heart, I think that I'm one of the biggest patriots I've ever met. I mean, I have the American flag in my background, and it's because my story would pretty much never exist in any other country in the world. I'm profoundly patriotic and committed to realizing the promise of our democracy. And one of the things that gets me up out of bed every day is engaging other people, waking up other people, and inviting them into the work. Inviting people to do the work alongside me, shoulder to shoulder. And I think a really good example of this is the way that I run my campaign. It's 100% grassroots, volunteer led. I don't have one single paid staff person, and I have a team of over 100 volunteers. And these are people that young people that can't even vote, that are dedicating their time to the vision because they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And that's what leadership is about.
Thank you. All right, it is time for our final statements or closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we will reverse the order from that of the opening statements. So first is Diane Poppin.
Thank you. First, I want to thank my family. You know, they sacrifice a lot for me to be able to do this work. And I just want you to know, I know they're watching. I'm really appreciative. I may not seem like it all the time, but I do appreciate it. To the League, it was great to be with you this evening. I want to thank you for your time and your dedication to the democratic process. One of our greatest suffragettes, Susan B. Anthony, said, "Someone struggled for your right to vote. Use it." And I really believe that through this forum tonight, and I understand you've done 12 of them, I think the League is certainly encouraging folks to vote. And for that, I would like to express my most profound gratitude. You are very important to the process. As it relates to me, listen, I'm honored to do this work. I feel I was meant to do it. I welcome the opportunity to continue to do this work with those guiding principles that I talked about of empathy and fairness and humility. I think together we will forge ahead to reach a shared vision through these challenging times and on to brighter days ahead. So thank you for allowing me to be with you tonight.
Thank you. And next is Amo Lee.
Well, thank you so much again for everybody being here and for your organizing. I think it comes on a week when we're all feeling the loss of Justice Ginsburg, and it's painful. And for me, the comfort is that I really believe that the arc of history does bend towards justice. And it is up to all of us to build the community that we want to be a part of, a just, healthy, and safe community. This pandemic has taught us that we're only as healthy as the most vulnerable community members. I have stood with communities in need and those who have felt unheard and underrepresented. And I've been doing this work since the first day of my first job and every single day since. San Mateo, it is my chosen and forever home. It is the place where we decided to set roots and raise our kids. For me, this is an incredible privilege and honor to serve on the council, and I do not take it for granted. For me, every single decision is a test of my values, our values, and a chance to fully realize our vision. I do not ever forget that public service is a sacred trust. And I ask that you know me by my actions and my voting record and the competence of our esteemed leaders like Jerry Hill and our public servants who are willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice, including our Police Officers Association, the Firefighters Association, and our environmental champions like the Sierra Club. I thank you so much for the chance to share my story and for the chance to earn your vote.
Thank you. And finally, Lisa Diaz-Nash.
And one more thank you to the League for an exciting, wide-ranging discussion, and to the audience for your attention and your great questions. I welcome anyone who didn't get their question asked, who wants to continue the discussion with me. Go to lisa4sanmateo.com or email me at lisa@lisa4sanmateo.com. I want to keep talking. I also want to thank my fellow candidates. We have been through several of these, and for all that you do to represent our community. Our discussion tonight demonstrates why it is so important who the individuals on City Council are. We don't know what big issues are going to happen in 12 months. Look at COVID. We need individuals who are balanced, who can look at all aspects of the issue to find a solution that will really solve the problem it's addressing. And I am one of those balanced individuals. I am passionate about revitalizing our economy, but I also want to make sure that we have programs and policies that will actually help our local businesses as well as our residents. I, like all three candidates, see expanding affordable housing as critical to San Mateo, but I brought my business experience to suggest creative ways to finance affordable housing in an era of shrinking government funds and how to repurpose assets we already have. I'm running for City Council, not president, not senator, because I believe that local government is where we have the best chance to encourage people and engage them in the work of government. Residents see if their potholes have been filled. They see if their neighborhoods are safe. And small businesses see if they are partners or just an afterthought. So I will spend every day on the council solving problems for our residents and small businesses. But I will also use that time to make more of you proud of your government and excited to get involved. If we can do that together in San Mateo, we can strengthen our democracy at all levels. As Margaret Mead famously said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. I would be honored to earn your vote and have a chance to be a problem solver for you and for all of San Mateo. Thank you.
Thank you. You can find additional information about the candidates on the League's voting website, votersedge.org. All the candidates have been invited to enter their information and link to their own websites. And we're ready for our slides, Kathy. Remember to vote on Tuesday, November 3rd, and encourage others to vote as well. Thank you. Vote, as you know, California, not just San Mateo County, but all California now is mail-in, all mail-in. You have to be registered to vote, of course. So if you aren't, please go do that. And the ballots will drop October 5th, and you can return them in several ways. You can just put it right into the posted page envelope. You can use a county drop box. You can go to a vote center, and locations for those last two, the drop boxes and the vote centers, is at San Mateo smcacre.org/elections. And at the vote centers, you can vote in person. You can exchange your ballot if you've somehow fouled the original one you've gotten, and do all kinds of great things there, and just drop off your ballot. And whatever you do, do not forget to sign your ballot. That's very, very important. For more information, you'll get a sample ballot in the mail that goes to all registered voters, as well as the official voter information guide. There's also the Easy Voter Guide. That's at easyvoter.org. And then again, there's the Voter's Edge. And then finally, a little plug. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and membership is open to both men and women are of voting age. So join us if you're interested in helping us with these lively forums and helping helping your community with these forums, because they are lively and they are fun. And Diane, we haven't done 12 yet. This is our 4th and we're doing 15. So you can join us by going to our website, lwv.org or LWV North and Central San Mateo County. Now, in conclusion, please join me in thanking the candidates for running. It's a tough job, but you ladies sure make it look easy. And thank you for running for a seat on the San Mateo City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.